All right, so for this game, looks like we have what is essentially just a straight sequencing setup. We've got 7 positions to work with, so we'll line that up accordingly. That is a terrible looking 5. And we have 7 elements, F, G, H, L, M, P, S, and nothing out of the ordinary just for the basic setup, so we'll just run straight into the rules. So the first rule tells us that H has to go earlier than S, but it has to go after F. Next, we are told that P has to be next right after G. So we're basically going to have a GP block. Next, we are told that at least 4 of the manuscripts have to go before the L, which really, I mean, if we have to have 4 things before the L, that just really translates into saying that L has to go 5 or later. So we can just kind of simplify this to say that L has to go either in 5, 6, or 7. Next, we're told that at least 4 have to go later than M. So same kind of deal, just on the other end. So that means that the latest that M can go would be the 3rd position. So M effectively has to go into 1, 2, or 3. And lastly, we are told that H cannot go into the 5th position, which is kind of an awkwardly specific thing to restrict. Now, you know what, just for the L and M, let's just quickly leave a reminder here. So we can say L has to go into basically one of these 3 slots, and M has to go into one of these 3. But let's talk about that H. So if H can't go last, where? I mean, it raises 2 questions. One question it raises is where could the H go instead? And the other question is what could go into the 5th position rather than H? Now, in terms of who can go there, it looks kind of flexible, to be honest. Now, to be fair, actually, I guess we couldn't really do F, H, S in 5, 6, and 7 because that would leave you with 0 room for the L. But as far as everyone else is concerned, it seems pretty flexible. Obviously not M, but yeah. Otherwise, though, where could we place the H? Now, I suppose we could put the H into 6, and that would force S into 7, and L would go into 5. And I think that would be okay. What about, could we put H into 4? Because if we did, then I guess S has to go on this side and with L, and then F. Actually, no, this wouldn't actually work. Because let's just run that again. If we put an H over here, then S would have to go somewhere between 5, 6, and 7 with L somewhere. And on this side, you're going to have a similar effect with you're going to have F before the H with M somewhere in 1, 2, and 3. But then the problem is you don't have anywhere to put the GP block. You're going to end up having to split it. So H actually couldn't go 4th. And on the other end, I suppose H could maybe go 2nd with F and 1, or it could go 3rd with a little bit of flexibility. You know what? There's only 3 major plays for H, though, so this might not be a bad idea in terms of exhaustion. This might be excessive, but again, if it seems like you want to exhaust, just take a shot and see where it takes you, because we can say that H can essentially only go into 1, 3, or 6. And the thing is, no matter what we do, there are implications for other elements. Like if we put H into 6, that means that S has to go after. It would get forced into 7, with L going into 5. If you put H into 2, it would force F to go before into 1, and then M would have to go into 3. And even in this scenario where H is in 3, we don't know exactly who's who, but we're going to have F and M between positions 1 and 2. So that also nicely lines up. And then we're just left with, I guess we have a GP block somewhere, but we have maneuverability. So you know what, from here, let's take a quick look at the questions. The questions themselves. Number 1, what could be a complete setup of the game? As usual, we go by the original set of rules. So first rule, H before S but after F, which effectively translates into F, H, S. So going through the answer choices, A looks okay, B looks okay, C does not. We have H before the F, which is not going to work. Answer choice D, F, H, S, and E is good as well. Next, GP block. Let's see if anything violates that. Answer choice A already does. We can't have them separated. B is okay, D is okay, E is okay. Next, L has to go among the last 3. So between B, D, and E, looks like D violates that one. We certainly can't have L first. And next, M has to go among the first 3. We're just down to B and E, and they're both okay, actually. Last rule, though, H cannot go 5th, and that looks like it's violated by answer choice B, which has H5 So the best answer to question number 1 is E. And as usual, I suppose we can plug that into the board. Answer choice E says MFH, and then followed by SLGP. Next, to the local. So the first local question here is number 3, which says, if H is next after M, so if we have an MH kind of block. Now, well, actually, if we have an MH block, the only scenario where that would work is actually this one over here, scenario, let's label these, but we can call it scenario B. Right? Because in every other scenario, MH doesn't actually happen. And otherwise, nothing else really changes. You would just force the M to go into number 2 and the F to go into number 1. And everything else seems like it would be just as flexible. So you know what, let's use that, see what we can do with that information. We're basically stuck in this scenario with M going into 2. The question asks, what could happen? F2 and no, because we just said M would go there. G3 and no, because that's already H. H4, no, H is already in 3. P3, and no, that's already H. And S4, and maybe S just has to go after the H, so that seems pretty safe. That could be true. Best answer for question number 3 is E. Next, number 5. If P was before H, now we didn't use this scenario, so I'm just going to get rid of this. If we have P before H, so what is that? Well, it's going to be a GP block, I suppose, right? Which means we're pretty much locked out of these 2 templates. There's no way to fit the GP block before the H, which means we're going to be stuck with this scenario. And again, nothing would change, right? Because the GP block here obviously has to go before H, and there's just flexibility. We're not 100% sure on where exactly it's going to go. So you know what, let's go with this. We're stuck in template C with nothing different, actually. The question asks, could be true, except we're looking for what cannot possibly happen. A, F1, and that seems pretty safe, right? F has to go before a bunch of stuff, but it seems like it can go first. Answer choice B, G3, and maybe the GP block could go into 3 and 4. That seems okay. Answer choice C, H6, and that's certainly true, so that certainly could happen. L7, and no, L can't go into 7 because 7 is currently an S. The best answer to question number 5 is D. Just in case, answer choice E, M in 2. Actually, yeah, that could happen, right? You could put an M over here and then the GP block would follow. Nothing wrong with that, so that could have been true. Once again, best answer to question number 5 is D. Back to the globals. Question number 2, which of the following cannot have gone third? Now, I guess historically and based on our templates, we've seen M and H go into 3, so we can get rid of answer choices C and D. And otherwise, I guess let's take a look. Answer choice A, could S have gone third? Well, actually, no. No, it could not. We can do this 2 ways. Just based on the templates, you'll notice that it's either M or H here, or S is all the way down here. So there's never an opportunity for S to go third. But alternatively, the thing is, if S was to go third, you'd have to have H and F before it, and that would lock out 3, 2, and 1 and leave you with no room for the M. So any way you go, S cannot be third. Best answer to number 2 is A. Lastly, question number 4. Which of the following cannot have gone fourth? Now, the 4th position, well, I know S could have gone there, so that gets rid of answer choice E. Oh yeah, we've already answered that question, haven't we? We said H. H could not go 4th because if H went, let's just recap this. If H went 4th, then you'd have to have S after and F before. But after, S would have to go with L somewhere over here, and before, F would have to go with M somewhere over there, and that leaves you with no room for the GP block, which would then have to split up. So the best answer to question number 4 is C.